Okay, so I've got a lot more of my cording wrapped and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and start building up my sides. The base of my basket is pretty big, so it's as big as I want it to be. So I'm going to start tilting my base up. So depending on how high you want your base to your sides to tip is how high you should do your base. If you want them to be really go almost straight up, then you're going to want to get it as tilted as far up as possible. If you want it to be more gradual, then don't raise it as high. You do want to keep it at a pretty even rate unless you want it to create more of a curve shape. So depending on the shape that you want your side to be is how high you should raise this up. I like more of a gradual curve, so I kind of keep it sort of in the middle. What some people do is they will actually mark their base so that you know a starting and stopping point of where you began your circle curve, so that if you want to raise it up at a certain point, you already have your marker. So I've heard of people putting a little piece of painter's tape or a sticky note somewhere on your base, so you know exactly where your start and stop point is of your circular curve, and you know when to start raising it up higher or lower it back down. So I do simple stuff. If you want to do something more extravagant, there are plenty of books out there that show you how to do like pottery shaped baskets, so feel free to look those up. So I'm just going to go ahead and start raising it up. And this is a good point to use my stiletto again here too. You can kind of see here how I'm going to be raising this up. So I can use my finger or my stiletto, it depends on what you're comfortable with, and just have it go ahead and start building up my sides. You'll need to untangle it a little bit. And you can kind of see the lip of my bowl is already starting to curve a little bit. You can kind of see that, and it's really gradual because I'm not holding it at a very extreme angle. It's kind of a medium one. So you're just going to continue building up the sides of your bowl like that. So now I've come to the end of my bowl. My bowl is about as big as I need it to be, and I need to finish off this end so that it kind of blends in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my needle and give myself about 5 or 6 inches of my bowl, and I'm going to take my bowl out so I can work with it a little bit easier, trim my thread ends. And now you can see I have my end, and I need more fabric than I need cording. So I'm going to have to trim my cording down. So I'm going to unwrap my fabric just a bit so that I get more of my cording. And I'm going to trim my cording off at an angle so that it isn't all bulky on one end. And you kind of want a good angle in here. So if you need to trim it at a pretty diagonal like that, that is kind of what you're looking to achieve. Diagonal like that. You could even go more of a diagonal depending on how tapered you want your end piece to be. Okay? So I'm going to clean off those pieces. And now I'm going to wrap this. This is the tricky part. Okay, you're going to wrap around this newly tapered end. And you're going to have more fabric on the end than cording. That's good. You don't want to have the cording pop out and show when you're ready to sew this together. Okay? So once it's finished, if you have some little threads at the end, like I do, just trim it off. And you can see that my little end comes out to a small tapered point. Okay? Now, I try to put a pin through it, just a small pin to kind of hold it in place. Otherwise, it's going to come unwrapped again. So that pin is just going to hold my little tapered end in place as I go to sew. You'll take it out before you get to the end. So I'm going to put it back under my machine. Start right before the last part that you stop sewing at so that it kind of catches that join. And you're just going to zigzag stitch as close to this end as possible. And this is when I like to use my stiletto again. So your stiletto comes in really handy here because you can push it in without getting your fingers in the way. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to have to use my stiletto. I'm just going to push this end in here under my presser foot. Now I'm going to turn my stitch length down so it's narrower because you're running out of fabric to sew into. You can see I've got it at 3.0 and 3.5. Okay, so you're going to keep turning that down as you get closer and closer to the end of your bowl. And we're going to backstitch because you don't want this to come unraveled after all the work that you've done. Just make sure it's catching both ends evenly. Now I can take out my pin because I'm close to that end. Push it in some more. Make sure that it's catching both sides. I reverse now. I'm going to reverse back over what I just did. And if you find that you're getting off a little bit, like I was, I walked a little too far, you can go back a little bit. Alright, I'm going to go forward. Make sure I got all that fabric caught in there. And now I'm going to tie off my stitch. And then clip your thread ends. And clip your thread ends from the previous join that you did when you first started. And now you can see my join is tapered down. It's not going to be as obvious when you look at the entire bowl. Come on, focus. There we go. So you can kind of see there, that's my join, okay? And this is my finished fabric bowl. It's kind of shallow because I wanted to get this done for the tutorial, but this can still come in useful for a lot of uses. I could put my scissors in here, keep my rotary cutters in here. It's a good rotary cutter size. All sorts of doodads. So this is my finished bowl. Made with batik fabric. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial and you make lots of fabric bowls like this for years to come.